Okay, so you've got the play up and running, it's looking good, it's cooking, but of course, the real part of the Forum Theatre event are the audience interventions. The play just sets the stage. Where the real learning happens is in the interventions. So it's important that you rehearse those too. Obviously, you can't rehearse the exact interventions that are going to happen, but it's essential that all of the actors playing the duty nurse and the clinical instructor, who are the ones who are going to most often be dealing with intervening audience members, get a chance to practice what it's like to improvise with an intervening audience member. So have a rehearsal where you invite a couple of other knowledgeable people to your final rehearsal, meaning people knowledgeable with nursing, with the domain, who can offer different interventions into the two scenes, and then fully joke those interventions in order to practice those skills for yourself and also to help the actors continue to deepen their characters. So we'll see some of that now, and we'll also talk about what joking means. Why do we call this idea of the facilitator the joker? Well, why the joker? Why do we call this person the joker? And it's a term that's come to us from Boal's initial practice. So the term joker, Auguste Boal made clear that this person is not a facilitator. And he didn't like that word because the root is facile, which means easy. And he would say, I'm not a facilitator, I'm a difficultator. And by that he means, it's kind of like the court jesters of medieval times. The joker is the one with license to speak truth to power and to name the elephant in the room that others fear to name. So your job is to gently poke the community to even take just a half step out of their comfort zone. And another way you can think about the joker that was brought to me by a great colleague of mine, Raquel Fernandez, who said, well, actually the joker in a deck of cards in certain games can serve the role of whatever is needed in the moment. For example, is this the moment to ask a provocative question? Or is it a moment to draw attention to a tiny detail that the audience might have missed? Or is it time to play dumb so that one of the participants will articulate what seems obvious to them, but maybe more profound than they realize or less normal in the opinion of the spectators than they might imagine, etc. So be what is needed in the moment, poke that community just a little bit, just so they're a half step out, and name what no one else is naming. Another thing we want to clarify about the role of the joker is that the joker is not a leader. You're up there at the front of the room, but you're not a leader in a conventional sense. Rather, the joker is a partner in a conversation. And by conversation, I'm referring to the root converse, which means to turn together, which is not communication in a certain sense. If you think of communication as one-way instruction, it kind of goes back to the banking model that Freire was trying to move away from. So in a conversation, all the participants are continually changing each other, not just the teacher trying to change the students. And this also reminds me of the work of Donald Schoen, who wrote about what he called the reflective practitioner across many realms, from being an architect to being a therapist. A reflective practitioner is someone who has a conversation with the situation. So the joker's invitation to the audience, and there's always an invitation when you've seen the play once, and now we're going to do the play the second time, and interventions are going to start happening. The invitation goes like this. You say to the audience, if there is something about the character's struggle that you feel you understand, and you think you might know another way that they could deal with this struggle, raise your hand and say, stop, nice and loud. The actors will stop, and you will come up on stage and replace the character of the student. Now that's usually in an educational setting. We're dealing with students who are going to go off to their, to work with their, to have their placements and preceptorships and so forth. So when we're in that context, we only let them replace the student because we don't want them to magically change the duty nurse or the CI. If you're doing the plays and using the scenarios with a mixed group of nurses of various levels of experience, you may want to have all the roles open to being replaced. But when we're working strictly with nursing students, the only role that can be replaced is the student. The other actor will remain in character, and we will try your idea. Here's something really important to let them know. Often we learn the most from interventions that don't quite go the way we expect them to. So don't worry about coming up here and getting it right and showing us the perfect way to handle this situation. Come up and give it a try, because in doing so, you're doing an act of service to the whole community, because you're going to give us a chance to have this deep and rich conversation. Okay, so having had our very successful and very fruitful rehearsal process, we're now going to do some Forum Theatre. We're going to actually perform the play and take a couple of interventions. We have a couple of people involved with the project here who've been good enough to be here to provide us with some interventions to work with. This will both be an opportunity for you to see the joking process, and I'll be stepping out of the role a little bit to say some things about what I'm doing as the joker / facilitator as we go along. And also as we explore the very subtle craft of being a form theater actor, which is to find the sweet spot between not giving in too easily to the way the intervener changes the scene, but also not digging in to the point where there is no chance for the scene to be changed. It's really, really critical that we find that sweet spot. And what that really requires is for the actor to bring themselves to the role, right? And not get stuck in an idea of a character who would never do X or Y. They need to bring their own lived human experience, their own common sense, their own remembrance that their character is not a cartoon, is not a one or two-dimensional, but is a full person who, has a lot of different elements to themselves and different needs and emotions that can be touched upon, as well as the central need that we've talked about in terms of the objective, that might actually shift them in some way, okay? So, we're going to dispense with showing the play all the way through once because you've already seen it a bunch of times, as have our audience members. Usually we play the play all the way through once, and then we invite the audience to come on stage. And I usually say something along the lines of, okay, so you've seen our play. How many of you recognize incidents of bullying that you, from your lived experience, have seen in the past? We've got some nods of heads. What are some of the things, just call them out, that you've noticed in the play that you've seen before?
Just being passive-aggressive.
Passive aggression.
Lack of eye contact.
Lack of eye contact.
Dismissiveness.
Dismissiveness.
Anxiety and fear.
Anxiety and fear. And I'm sure there's many, many others. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the play again, but this time, and we're going to focus on the character of Kelly, because right now, we're going to do a version that is similar to when we do this play for a group of student nurses. The only character they really should intervene to replace is Kelly, because that's the only one that they have the knowledge base to replace. When we do this play for mixed audiences where there are experienced nurses there as well, sometimes we do open it up to an intervention to replace Chris, and we will do that after this. But for now, if you think you know a way that Kelly can try and move through this interaction in a more positive way and create a different outcome, you're going to raise your hand and say, stop, right in the middle of the scene, nice and loud. You're going to come on stage, replace Kelly. You're going to try your idea, and the other character, Chris, will stay in character and improvise with you, and we'll see where your idea leads. Often we learn the most from ideas that don't quite unfold the way we think they're going to. Things can go sideways. You could uncover new complexity, or you might find a perfect way to move through this difficult impasse. But it is not your job to come up here and show us how to do it perfectly. Your job is to help us explore a complex and difficult situation and give us more food for thought and more food for conversation as we explore these issues together. Okay? So I'm going to step away and I'm going to say action, and then the scene will begin, although I'm going to step back in shortly after that. Because when we're doing the interventions, the Joker is always present on stage, ready to respond to the audience. All right? So I'm going to step out and we'll begin the scene and take an intervention. Standing by, and action.
Hi, my name is Kelly. I'm a first-term nursing student, and I'm so excited to be paired with you. Today, I was here actually yesterday, and I was paired with your colleague, and we had a really good day. I learned so much, and I am hoping to use some of that today. I'm actually assigned to two of your patients, Mr. O and Miss A. I had Mr. O yesterday, but I did not have Miss A. Oh, and I also had Mr. T, and I found it actually quite hard to hear Mr. O's BP. We have to take them manually, so the RN really was helping me yesterday with that. Just really double checking. It would be so helpful if we could...
Can you just stop with all the details? Who are you?
Freeze.
Okay, great. Come on up. All right, and obviously you're going to replace Kelly. can you just introduce yourself for our audience?
Hi, I'm Karen, and I'm going to be taking the place of Kelly, our student nurse.
Great. So either the scene will find a natural ending, or at a certain point I might say freeze. When I do, please try and freeze in character in that particular emotional state, in that moment of the scene. And I'm going to ask what are called a few animating questions, so we're going to use the animation techniques. And then when that's done, we'll just have a free-form conversation. Okay, where would you like to take it from?
Chris telling me to stop with all the details.
Okay, great. We always ask them if the intervener where they want to take it from. They may have called the intervention at a certain point, but we don't necessarily assume that's where they want to take it from. Sometimes they want to take it from the beginning of the scene, so we always ask that question. We always give as much control as we can to the intervener, because the intervener is the person that's taking the biggest risk coming out of the audience in front of a group of peers and being willing to try this. Okay, so you want to take it from?
Chris telling me to stop with all the details.
Stop with all the
please.
details. Okay, I'm going to step out of your eye line just so I'm not in your way. And we'll take it from here whenever you're ready. So, oftentimes you need to choose a moment to freeze the action in an intervention. Sometimes the intervention will reach a natural conclusion, but if it does not, wait until you are relatively sure that the intervener has had the chance to fully employ the new strategy that they wish to bring to the situation. But if it feels like they've tried but did not have the desired impact, or that the other character is resisting in such a way that now the characters have become caught in just an argumentative loop, then ask them to freeze in that precise moment of the scene and then move on to the animation questions. Now here they are.
Okay, stop with all the details. Who are you?
My name's Kelly. You know, I would love if there was another chair around here, but I just feel awkward staring at you from way up high. My name's Kelly, and I'm from the accelerated program at the university.
Oh, the accelerated program. Well, that explains it.
Yeah, I get that a lot. But I'm really excited to be here and learn from you today. It sounds like it's going to be a busy day, and I do really want to help. Like I said, I'm really eager to learn.
Okay, but you can't do blood pressure.
It's not that I can't do a blood pressure. I just need to do it a specific way for my CI.
Okay, well, why don't you have your CI come and do it with you then?
I can get her to double check it, but I'd also like to learn from you if I can.
Okay, well, what can you do? Because I have a patient with hypertension, and it's my first day on the unit. I've got lots of stuff that I need to sort out. So if you can't do vitals, how are you going to help me?
Well, I can get my CI to help me do vitals. Would that be okay?
Yeah.
Okay. And I can do head-to-toe assessments. I can document all of that. And I can help you communicate things to the team and the doctors and stuff.
Okay, that's good. But right now I need to have my coffee.
Okay.
And read the Cardex.
Okay.
So go find your CI and then come back.
Freeze. So the first round of this conversation with the situation that you're going to have as Joker is to use these tried and true animation questions that were taught to me by David Diamond. So when the intervention has found a natural conclusion, or you've chosen to freeze the actors at a key moment, give them these following prompts. As your character in this moment, complete the following sentence: I want. Next one, if you as your character could wave a magic wand and change anything in the universe that would change this current situation, what would it be? Complete the sentence, I wish. And then finally, this one is really juicy and often brings up the most interesting things that we can unpack in subsequent conversation, which we'll get to. As your character, what is your secret thought? And this means something very specific in the Forum Theater environment. The secret thought means something that is true for you as this character. Remind them they're speaking in character, so they're free to say whatever they need to say, and depending on the audience, to use whatever language feels right to say it, but that you would not say out loud in front of the other character under any circumstances. That means it needs to be something we haven't heard you say yet, but it's true for you. Commit to it, and don't change it when you hear what the other person says, because each question you always do both, and then you move to the next question. But for all these prompts, the intervening audience member always goes last. It's a principle of this work that the person who's coming up from the audience and making an intervention is the one in this moment taking the biggest risk. So we always want to give them the last word. So that's what we do with all these prompts. Let's take a look at some of those prompts in action in our sample rehearsal. Okay, in this moment, I'm going to ask you some questions. I always begin the question with the person who's not the intervener, and then the intervener goes second. So, frozen in this moment as this character, please complete a sentence that begins with the phrase, I want. Chris.
I want her to help me later.
I want her to help me later. Okay. Kelly.
I think I just want Chris to help me more with things, like so that I can learn from her.
Right. And what do you want from her in this moment?
I think just to be less dismissive of me.
To be less dismissive of you, right? And what will that give you?
I think a little bit of validation that
Validation.
I'm allowed to be here.
Okay, so some validation. Okay. I wish. You can wave a magic wand, change anything in the universe. I wish.
I wish. Oh, what do I wish? That. I wish that I just could be nice and be in the moment with her.
I wish I could be nice and be in the moment with her, but I can't. Yeah. Okay, I wish.
I feel like I wish Chris would be nice to me.
You wish Chris would be nice to you. And finally, a secret thought. And by that we mean something really specific, something that is true for you as this character, but that you would not say out loud in front of the other character under any circumstances. But it's true for you. You're in character, so you have a license to say whatever you need to say. We won't hold it against you or censor you. So a secret thought, Chris.
My secret thought is that maybe she might be able to be helpful later.
Maybe she might be able to be helpful later, but you wouldn't say that now.
No.
Okay. Kelly, secret thought.
I think I'm nervous, and I just really want Chris to like me enough to let me help.
You want her to like you enough to let you help? Yeah?
Yeah.
So what is the secret in that?
I think I want Chris to like me, but I wouldn't really let on that that's necessarily the fact.
Okay, I want Chris to like me, but I wouldn't necessarily let on that that's the case. Okay, great. So I know you've got thoughts coming. We're going to get to those in a moment. Okay, good. So we release them from the character. We're going to keep you up here for a moment. If staying kneeling is comfortable for you, or if you want to stand, that's up to you. So we give them a round of applause. But we keep the intervener on stage for some further unpacking.